Welcome back to the channel. We're in a different location from where I recorded this episode, but one of the things you'll notice is in cold weather the sound travels further, and it's quite difficult to record without all the pitter-pattering of Elbe on the deck. But she's perfectly entitled to be here. She's his crew as much as everybody. She's only human after all. And speaking of crew, Bobby, you'll notice, will be giving some presentations, and I want to show you that it's very, very important, in my opinion, that everybody's equally skilled and balanced in skill. Obviously everybody brings something else to the table, but we should all know what we're all doing. And so if you're thinking to do what I do, I highly suggest that if you're training with your partner or whatever, you train together. It'll certainly really reduce your stress. And remember, stress is simply the perception of lack of control. So if everybody's equally skilled, we're good to go. Enjoy the episode. So Bobby's just going to show you a little bit about some of the things that are different. Bobby's obvious background is he's a wind sailor himself, but he's been working on super yachts. He's first mate on a super yacht before he came on board Apocalypse. So I want you to show everybody, Bobby. Show people how. First of all, let's talk about the tiller.
So here we are on the starboard side. This is our starboard tiller, and it's full Korryn, just like most of the boat. It's amazing. There's very little leeway, and it takes very little effort, and it will give you all the movement you need just in that small area of space there. Sitting up here, you can see full ahead. One hand on here, it works perfectly. It's also set up so we can also man this 4-sail winch here. As if James and I are sailing just together, we can slip the winch and crank on the winch from sitting here, keeping an eye on the wind speed and the boat's direction. Coming here, we have this state-of-the-art NKE autopilot. This is sort of the thing we look at most of the time. It has many different options and many different heading options you can steer to. True wind angle, compass angle, or apparent wind angle is a really handy one when we're really pushing the boat for its full performance. Coming down here, we have a handy little lanyard. As this boat is pretty leery, it can be quite dangerous. There are various measures to make sure we stay safe, and this is a very helpful one. Pulling this will dump all the sheets at once, all simultaneously, just as the anti-capsize system will as well. As you can see here, we have 4 anti-capsize systems. We'll go through a bit later on.
Yeah, so we have 3 active. All right, so you have the main sheet and the traveller on the stern here, Korryn, who's kindly holding the camera. Korryn's Bobby's girlfriend, and she's spending some time with us on board. It's really lovely to have her on board, but Korryn's holding the camera at the moment. But the traveller is very big, and that shows you the power basically of what you're getting, and it's quite telling that, like I've said before in the previous videos, that Harken 990 winch, in my view, you really need it.
This is larger than the prototype, right?
Yeah, the prototype was on the 80 series, and that's one of the things that I felt like, particularly, this is an electric winch, right? So getting that good sail trim constantly, if we were grinding it, yourself, like we actually put 4 turns on that 990 to get it perfect, to get the right kind of control as the winds pick up. And you need those 4 turns. Otherwise, when you go to sheet out and do the sail trim, it'll sheet out. It'll go up quite quickly. There's a lot of tension on it. So as Bobby mentioned, we've got these cam cleats around, and our natural rhythm is that myself and Bobby will put the sheets or the traveller or the main sheet in the cam cleats, so that, as Bobby showed, the lanyard there, we just pull that and it dumps. That makes safe the boat, releases the power. Things start flapping. But we've made a countermeasure. You can imagine that if you just dump the sheet, especially the main sheet, the boom will just fly across the deck. But what we do is we basically, this is the main sheet here, okay? And what we'll do is we'll actually take a little bit of slack in it like this, have it in the cam cleat around the winch, and then at the end of this, put it through one of these cam cleats. So you're not fumbling trying to catch a flapping sheet. It's already in the cam cleat. The boat is depowered, and we can very quickly get the boat back sailing again without having to find these flapping sheets, which can be quite dangerous. So just little touches like that I added, but we're pretty happy with these 990s. Real good job. I would definitely buy them again.
So continuing on, we have the throttle controls here. and also the windlass control here. This is very handy. There's times where there's only one person on board, and this is designed in a way where we can pull anchor and drop anchor all single-handedly just from sitting from the tiller here. We have a free-fall option, so it's super easy and super efficient, where we can pull up, maneuver and re-drop the anchor without too much hassle. Right, got that works.
And the Yanmar, we just want to explain that, you know, the Yanmar engines, I basically, although the shipyard recommended it, like everything with ORC and Masterton Composites, I think they go for the quality stuff. And very, very happy with Yanmar, and the quality is just totally different. You know, we get a lot, they have a CAN bus system, so we can get all the engine information out and well in advance of servicing history or the requirement for service, or, you know, low oil pressure, all those kind of things. The engine, you know, will speak through an engine management system to us. So you have that choice nowadays. Do you go for a fully analog engine, or do you, have this monitoring? And my view is it's nice to have the monitoring, really. And so on the starboard side, myself and Bobby have set up the starboard display, gives us our fuel burn.
Yes.
And on the port side, it gives us our temperature, engine temperatures. And the fuel burn is quite impressive, because remember, this is a performance boat, so we don't carry too much fuel. And we generally, if there's no wind like there is today, or we're just coming in and out of port, that's when we'd use the engines. So, you know, even in 4 knots of wind, we're expecting to get 5.5 knots with this boat.
Yes.
That's when we know we've got good sail trim. You know, obviously, with this type of boat, the apparent wind is always going to, you know, be more on your beam than you would expect, and maybe a heavier boat. And so therefore the sails, like the Jenicas, are cut to cater for that. So yeah, so Bobby's mentioned the chain counter.
Yep.
We've got the wireless control of the engines, and that's pretty much everything up front here. And I'm going to take your eye along to the jammers and the jammer selection, which is different from. Bobby, do you want to demonstrate that for us?
Yes, these aren't your normal jammers. These are amazing pieces of kit. These are designed in a way where you can take the load off without putting the load back onto the winch. You see this little trigger here? You can get the whole load off, like so, without taking any of the tension out of the line itself. So that saves a heap of time. When we're just the two of us, pretty much solo sailors, efficiency is key, and energy conservation as well. So just little things like that make the whole sail that much more enjoyable and easy.
And safer. Yeah.
And safer.
Yeah, and where that's really relevant would be for the main sheet and the traveller. So if we were mid-jibe and all of a sudden the wind picked up a lot more than we were expecting,
yes,
we could basically dump it in a hurry. Or one of the other advantages, if somebody if we when you get tired, you make mistakes. That's normal. So if the jammer was by accident closed on an active sheet or traveller, we can just open it and release the power very quickly. So yeah, super handy, super safe. Really happy with those. Taken a while, if I'm honest, for us to get used to the different, very kind of the opposite of what you would expect of a normal jammer. But now that I'm familiar with it, I think it's the way to go. And it's
absolutely.
And the O'Kellys asked me, how I found it on the line. Well, we've done quite a lot of miles now. We've probably got a good 15 or 20,000 miles. I'm not really sure, but it's pretty good on the line. It's not heavy on the nice Dyneema lines. So another piece of kit that I can stand by.
Keep an eye on it, but it's so far so good.
Yeah, I can recommend that so far.
Yeah.
One of the things I think with time that I might change on this on this vessel is I might actually get this. You can retrofit an electric motor on this manual winch, and then again this is the different speeds. So you go super fast at first, and then you go the other direction, and then you begin what would be a normal winch, and then you've got the strong but slow hauling in. But the reason why this winch specifically is what the line that I have on at the moment is actually the furling line, and I think if there's a big blow coming in, it would be nice to be able to zip that and furl that sail in a lot quicker without using so much energy. It's not essential. Myself and Bobby, well, Bobby's fitter than me and younger than me, but it would be nice. It would be ideal if you're going to go for perfection. But again, all these things unfortunately cost more money. There we go. So we got the beautiful Korryn on camera now. But what I wanted to show was, you can see the level of space. Like, I mean, you know, Bobby's 6'2", 6'3", and you know, there's just heaps of space on this vessel, and this is the cockpit. And I find personally, from the nature of the having this nice big cockpit, we use it a lot more, don't we? We're out here, and it's a bit cold at the moment for our breakfast.
Yeah, I'm comfy.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And Korryn, how have you found? You know, you're new to the sailing. How have you found it being on board? You know,
This boat makes it very easy. It's big enough to be a house, so.
Yeah, and you're getting a good sleep. It's nice and warm. We've got those diesel heaters going here.
Absolutely.
It's minus you know, below freezing at night time here in Trieste, beautiful Trieste. And so we've got the diesel heaters going on inside.
Yep.
I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So I just wanted to show you, as I always do in the videos on the channel, I try and you know, add value in as far as little hints and tips. But a really useful one is that when you're getting into boating, you've always got to prepare things as if you forget, or you clean up your lines and have everything ready to roll, basically, because you're always kind to your future self. And here's one trick that's just very simple but quite nice. This is the J1 sheet, or your Solent or Genoa sheet. Okay, if I let that slack and the wind comes in, it'll start flapping on the coach roof and keep us all awake. So just by putting a little bit of tension on it, and then a little loop like this, and over the block, it keeps enough tension in it to keep it off the coach roof. But if you forget when we're sailing and we open that, it's quite easy for me just to flick that off, even when this side's under load. You see what I mean? So it's just a good trick there, yeah, just can save a little bit of time. So I basically just loop it on itself like that, put it around the block, and there's still enough tension on that to keep it off the roof, the coach roof. And Korryn's zooming back, and you can see from here that this is basically, these two are the daggerboard controls. So really quite simple. So Elbe's having a bark at the passing by. There's people rowing past here, but this is quite simple. So daggerboard up, daggerboard down, and then there's a set of 3 jammers here, and that controls the 3-dimensional trim. We have a down haul, out haul, and an in haul, and that sorts out the kind of the sail trim, particularly at the top of the J1, J2 or J3. So remember that we can use any of the 4 sails, we can manipulate them using this by passing the sheet through a ring that I'm going to show you shortly. If I was to build it's unlikely to build another boat again, but if I were to build another one, even a monohull, I would definitely go for this tiller steering. Why? You can see this is a pretty good reason why. It's out of the way now, and I have all this space back. It's not, you know, big wheel in the way blocking my transit. And there's a lot more feedback as well. Keep it simple in both. But one of the things I want to show you is this. I deliberately from the very outset installed this male and female smart plug adapter. And why? A lot of people make this mistake. You get a rotating kind of power outlet, and you can have arcing. And when the boat's moving, it could cause the cable to come, you know, undone, and you get the spark jumping and cause a fire. Whereas these smart plugs have this really nice grip either side and hold in very firm. So it stops that, basically that. So it's reducing your risk of fire and maybe even electrocution if it fell in the water, or somebody could get electrocuted. So yeah, there's obviously AC voltage, and where I am now is 230, 240 volts.
This is our 3-dimensional 4-sail tuning system we have here. See how the main 4-sail sheet will run through, as well as these 3 sheets as well. So we have an out haul, down haul, and an in haul. I can all trim the various areas of the 4-sail to optimize its performance, and we use this every single time. We're always adjusting, until you find that really nice sweet spot where we'll be constantly sailing faster than the wind is blowing. So that's thanks to this little system here. Each sail, 4-sail we rig up, like a J3 or the Code 0. Those sheets will also run through this ring here and go back aft where we can run. So it's super easy to remove a sheet or leave one in and just rig up the other sails as we switch between.
So a few things. We've got a mix of solar actually. So we've got the Seatronic, which is a Lorient-based company, where the boat was built. So I've got a section of Seatronic, and these panels. So on either side it's identical. So I've got 5 Seatronic, and they're 150 watt panels here, and I've got 3 118 watt panels alongside, so that's duplicated either side. And then you've got on the stern over the davits, which I showed you earlier, each one of those big glass solos, you couldn't walk in those now. Each one of those, if I'm not mistaken, I've forgotten now, but I think each one of those 3 is 500 watts. So plenty of solar, and myself and Bobby have been tweaking and trying to get things right. It's kind of difficult in the winter, there's really not that much sun. So tweaking all of those things and getting it right, it's tricky. And while I'm here, one of the things I love is the fact that obviously you can see Bobby's, it's easier for Bobby because he's taller than me, but getting access to put the sail bag in, this is a good setup because in a few years these get quite badly nailed with the weather. It's obviously to protect the sail from the sun and the weather, so you get longer lasting sails. Yeah, so I'm like I said, I've selected little bits and pieces that I like across the marine sector, and that's what I love about this shipyard. It's semi-custom really, and when I say semi, it pretty much is fully custom, because the only thing that you don't have a say over is the shape of the hulls, which is exactly the shape of hulls I would want anyway, because they're Mark Lombard designed by the Mark Lombard design group, and in my opinion those guys are the best, really. So so mixing that with all the bits and pieces that I actually want. So these are actually Ronstand cars, and I love Ronstand stuff. I think it's excellent, especially for the price. It's more along the the budget side of things, but brilliant stuff. And if Korryn can get me, once I open up, we'll get a little bit of some videos of us when we're underway. I've got a little bit of a mix of different things. So these spin lock jammers that are going to be under a lot of load, quite easy to find and replace. So that's why I did that. And this is the main Halyard jammer that's holding a lot of tension. You can see she's quite beefy. She's got a locking system, and then I've gone back to the V-grips for the things that aren't so needing so much tension. But yeah, you need these on this vessel. It's very big. So the stuff, if you're used to sailing, it's all pretty familiar stuff. We've got the halyards go up a mast and the sheets go across a deck. So for some people that are getting used to sailing and getting into it, at first glance this stuff would look quite intense, but it's like with any boat, you very quickly start to get the look and feel for things and what's going on. And Korryn, that's holding the camera at the moment, she's going right in at the deep end, and so tomorrow we're going to set sail and take Korryn, and myself and Bobby are obviously going to get her trained up to the max. So Korryn's going to be seeing us dropping. This is the main halyard, and that raises and lowers the main sail, and then we have a system where to stop the sail blowing out, we put in a reef and we go through a little hole in the sail, kringle, and we tie that reef down here with very strong dyneema, so that can't then blow out once we raise and put tension in the main. So things like that. And then we've got the lazy jacks, which are dyneema, and that holds this boom off the deck. This is the boom here on my right, and that basically lifts that off the deck, and you can see them here. You can see these lazy jacks, they're dyneema, and that's what's lifting. We don't have a topping lift in this boat. It's starting to get dark here, and if you're really interested to learn more about what it is that myself and Bobby do, don't forget that we actually do offshore training on board Apocalypse, and if that's something that you're interested in, you can catch me on sailingcarryon@gmail.com. Just before we move on, we have got one automatic winch, which is really useful for raising the main. So halyard it just makes life easier, but we've got one, and then a manual winch deliberately. Now the automatic winch is activated by my foot switch here, which keeps your hands free. And then we use this mostly for the tack line. So we'll raise the sail up at the foresail, usually, and then it connects in with a furling lock. It's a nice bite basically, and won't release under pressure. And then on deck level, where you would want it to be if there was a problem, all the tension is applied on the tack line at the bottom of the sail here. So we haul that in and we get that really, it's got to be very, very tight. And what I would say to people coming into the performance boats, could be quite shocking, like this is the tack line here that we have on the winch, and could be quite shocking the loads. Sorry, that's actually the halyard, but you'd be shocked the loads that are on this, and you really definitely want to have dyneema in them. So that manual winch, when it's right, you're literally on the last quick click of the power speed, so that gives you an impression. Very, very strong winches. you can see this is obviously the windlass, and on this vessel I've got stainless chain. I'm intending to keep this boat for the rest of my life if I can, until I get incapacitated or somebody offers me a crazy price for my boat. But you know, to be honest, I'm quite happy to build another one, identical boat, because it was such a pleasure to build it. But anyway, you know, I've got stainless chain. That means it lasts longer, obviously, and doesn't leave marks and rubbing. You know, the rust everywhere makes life a little bit easier. But I've got a 60 meters of chain there, and then a backup of about 20 of 10 mil. That's 12 mil chain. I've got a backup of 10 and a backup anchor as well, which you'd be wise to do that in case you know you lost one or got stuck and you had to dump it and go and dive for it later. We have a manual remote here, which is just an easy, simple relay. And remember, Bobby showed you the remote up at the helm. You always want to do that in case that remote switch has failed up at the front. You've got a backup that you can just run up manually and do that. Don't make that mistake of just having one switch. It'll turn out badly for you, I promise. One of the cool things also is that I've actually done it in testing, where I can run a line from those two winches and a slip knot, and haul up the anchor chain without a windlass. If that windlass fails, you can imagine it's not going to be relaxing for myself and Bobby hauling up chain together and trying to maneuver the boat. It's dangerous as well for your hands, right? So basically controlling, pulling up the chain using those two winches, it's a great location, right? Don't underestimate how important these quick release furlers are. It means that myself and Bobby can very quickly put a J2 up or a J3 up here, and we're so proficient that it literally could take 3 minutes. We could do a sail change. I think we could easily do it in 3 minutes if we were timed under stress. And that means we get the boat sailing very quickly when the wind's high. We've got the J1 closed up and safe. So what I've done is I've got this is actually a Carver fixed furler, okay, here, and that's always there, and this is a structural for the mast. And the J2 and the J3 go up in here, and for those I use profile. Really the reason I use profile is because the furler itself is actually a bit bigger diameter, so that gives you a bit more torque, and so that we can pull that in later, but the apparent winds of these sails, I mean, this guy, if I put his maximum limit for the J1 is 31 apparent knots. That's when you close him. So it gives you an idea of the intention and the apparent wind speeds that you can get with this vessel. And she's an absolute screamer. But the sail is cut for that, and she's of adequate strength to be able to maintain that performance all day long. So for me, I'm really, really happy to endorse, although I'm not sponsored by this company at all, but Milwaukee. Most people will either choose Milwaukee or their most preferred brand, but Makita is pretty popular too, and I would recommend them. But the beauty of why I've chosen this particular pack out system is, if I want to do a job, all my spares and everything are inside these boxes, and what it means is that I can actually take this box and work at it in the cockpit when it's cooler, because it might get a bit hot in here in the tropics, although there's a window and a fan to keep it cooler. And that basically makes life just a little bit easier, and you can see it's locked in place now. So we've got all our stuff set up quite nicely, electronics, everything's divided into diesel mechanics stuff, whatever. And remember I was telling you that you need dyneema on this vessel for the high loads. Well, what's quite cool is we basically we don't carry too many different types of cordage on the boat, because dyneema is so wonderful to work with. You can splice in some extra dyneema where the other one might have chafed or whatever. So it means that you're just not carrying too much extra lines. And this boat's on 24 volts as well. That means you have less copper required for 24 volts. So we generally don't really need to carry too much extra copper cabling, but I do anyway. But I think as my journey goes on with Bobby, we're going to be doing a little bit more, we'll show you some of the maintenance and the things that we do. And even on a new boat, and even in a high performance one, you must expect to be doing some maintenance on these vessels, because you're taking a lot of the stuff like what you would have in a house, and you're thrashing the boat. You're really hitting heavy waves, and the faster the boat, of course, you're going to have more shaking and more forces. So you must expect to to do that yourself, and it would be very foolish not to have good quality tools with you, because you know it's just it's a nightmare if you haven't got the right piece of kit. But again, this is a company that I really love. This is a company called Wera, W-E-R-A. Now just coming in to investigate. But little multi-tools, this is kind of a multi-tool setup. But you'll be amazed at how much I've used this already. Like, you can actually see the use on it in less than 8 months that I've owned this vessel. This is some of their other stuff, some pointers. This is the brand that I'm talking about. You'll find that on Amazon. I'm really impressed with those things. But yeah, everything will walk in. All my power tools. You can see even on the top here, I've got this board comes off, so I can hammer away on that top, and this is actually also I can hammer on this top too, on this top that I hope you can see. And I've got all my socket sets and everything we need to maintain and operate this vessel for long periods, including spares for impellers for the engines, you know, oil, just everything. We've got Sikaflex, you know, all the stuff that if you're accustomed to sailing and living like we do, you'd be wise to carry that sort of level of spares. What are you barking at Bobby for? Why are you what? You're just making all this noise for a bit of attention, isn't it? For carry on my old Neil 51, I had the 45 kilo anchor, and that's my kedge anchor. My spare was 45 on board. That's a 55 kilo. Remember, a lighter boat, you need a heavier anchor because there's more momentum, you know, the boat can move more. So my advice to you is, if you're going to do it at all, stick with the Rock No Vulcan. That's what I've got. I've got a swivel, which is actually a Plastimo swivel, and maybe Korryn will show you which one I recommend, because there's a lot of different swivels, folks, out there, and the swivel could be a weakest link. So come on over, Korryn, and then I'll show everybody this swivel, so you can see quite clearly the Rock No Vulcan, which is stainless, and then you can see this Plastimo swivel connected to the 12-meter stainless chain. And that swivel, obviously, you're gonna, if you classically in a storm, you'll see a 180-degree wind shift quite often, and you know the anchor can come up and reset. But to be honest, I just it's a worthwhile investment. This is, you can see this like the handbrake of your brakes in the car, but you know you're going to get a really nice good sleep with that setup. But the swivel, stick with that swivel. There's also one from a company called Mantus, M-A-N-T-U-S, the Mantus swivel. I had that carry on, loved it. But the problem with, I couldn't put the Mantus swivel on this setup because it wouldn't fit through this narrow gap. And then when we're anchoring, we deploy the snubber system. I still do have some Mantus kit here, and I'll show you. This is the Mantus chain hook, and I have a swivel on that too. You see that? That Mantus chain hook. Just the way to go. It's unbelievable. I had normal, you know, like welders chain hooks, and the chain hooks bent with the force. So this hasn't broken at all. Brilliant piece of kit. So if you're going to do ground tackle, and your budget can cater for it, I suggest you do that. You'll sleep well. So one of the other cool things, remember I told you the winches are where Korryn is standing with the camera and Bobby's on her left side. But we can actually run like a slip knot to that winch. So at the moment, there's a strong bora wind which comes in this direction and pushes us on the dock. And we deliberately take the mooring lines and keep the boat off the dock. So when the wind comes in, there's not too much force against the dock. So these mooring lines, we actually attach another line to that line, to the mooring lines that go under the water, and take it to the winch. And that means we can haul in that mooring line while it's around the cleat. And that would mean that we get loads of tension, get the boat off the dock, and then I just say to Bobby quickly, right, slipping, and then Bobby will just tie off on that cleat, and it just gets loads of tension in. Quite often you'll see somebody use the windlass, if the windlass is up on the deck of a boat, and release the clutch a little bit on the windlass, and then put a few lines round. They're not great. Bobby will be very, very familiar with those on. Come on in, Bobby, and to the shot. And on the super yachts, you would have seen. You have a winch quite close to the mooring cleat, isn't that right? And then you put the winch.
Yeah. You have a big capstan, most commonly, pretty close to here, and then you'll be able to transfer the load from that capstan onto your bits. And obviously they're much bigger and chunkier. With all that weight on this boat, so these are all we need on Apocalypse.
So I'm just These are halyards for the J2, J3, and then the flying sails at the front. You know, the Code 0, Jenica, or G1 or G2. And we just discovered that it's quite nice having. I've deliberately put these halyards here, so when we tack, that the sheet from the J1 sheet hits against this first and overlaps against this, rather than rubbing against the mast with the sheet. You know, the loose sheet, especially when you're single-handed at night time, can get caught on the clutches, you know, the jammers, or stuff around the base of the mast. You know, when you're tired, you make mistakes. So just keeping these two here. And also interesting, I've noticed that, I'm just telling Bobby about this now, who's behind the camera, that the G2 halyard and the Code 0 halyard was getting caught in the J1, and would mean it was a little bit dangerous when we were trying to close the J1. It can get caught. So I just moved that, moved the stowage of the actual halyard here forward on the trampoline. So it kind of makes sense anyway. You know, we need to use the Jenica and the Code 0 and the big sails. We know where to get the halyard, basically, to connect into the sail. So Bobby's got the, he's obviously just sorting out the bosun's chair. The bosun's chair has pockets in it, but this electrician's belt serves actually really better. And what we deliberately do is we mostly leave the things that we need in a hurry, that we might need going up the mast in this extra jobby job. And so that means that, you know, we can just quickly whip on the belt and hoist Bobby or myself up, vice versa. I'll be going. Everything's pretty much ready to go. Bobby doesn't have to do too much stuff, you know, messing around to try and get the whole show on the road. So yeah, worthwhile investment. Those things just adds to your, you know, the readiness.
Keep going, stop.
There's stuff in the background here, sorry folks, but if you look under the radar you can see two cameras. Those are basically just to help me, you know, moor into port, but not in the perfect position. So the visibility is not ideal, because obviously it's a bigger boat. That's kind of natural, right? No boat is perfect, so that's the way I've got around that. Basically got a wireless Wi-Fi over Wi-Fi, get a video stream